Good morning, friends. As I listen to the bell, it seems like I'm on the third grade, right? After the break, people start asking us to come. And it is a joy for us to be together. This is already the third day that we are meeting for the leadership summit, and so far it has been a blast. It has been a blessing. Especially sometimes not only what we listen from up here, but also what we're listening in communicating with our friends and with those who are serving, especially in challenging places. I enjoy listening to the mission stories behind every face. All of us have our challenges, all of us have our stories, and all of us need God's grace and God's power. This is the third time I'm speaking to you, and you may already feel tired of me being up here. But I will tell you something. Please, listen. This is going to be the last time. Okay? So if you are tired, just be patient with me, for another 35 minutes. And it's a joy when I see also in the room, friendly faces. I just look at Brother Alan, the Associate Treasurer of the division, who worked with me for a number of years in Mongolia. You survived the cold, Alan, and we had a great partnership there. I sometimes remind Alan how he was a godly sent person. And we accomplish a lot for God together. And that's what God wants us to do, friends. He wants us to work together. He wants us to support one another. He wants us to uplift one another and complement one another with the gifts that God has given to us. And in those years together, Alan, you were the secretary, and the treasurer, and the driver, and many other things as we worked and did our best in that mission field. Friends, let me share with you this morning something that is very dear to my heart. And I believe something that we all struggle with sometimes. Let me just let my friends know the timer is not working, so I may speak until 12. The timer is not working, so I'm free, right? Okay, anyway, just making sure we are on the same page. But I want to share with you something that I somehow think from time to time. The church have granted me a title. God has blessed me with a position. But am I a real, legit leader? And I want you to think with me in these next 30-some minutes about this topic. Because there is a big difference between having a title and being a legitimate, respected, and trusted leader in the church. I don't know about you, but I have fear of heights. I really do. I remember once being in a hotel room in Hong Kong, and it was the 94th floor in the building. I could not stay 2 meters from the window of my room that I have, my legs will tremble and, so much butterflies inside. honestly, I do have fear of heights. And that's why sometimes I go to YouTube and I see this guy. I don't know if you have seen him. His name is Alex Arnold. And this guy climbed without a single safety equipment. And here you can see on the left of the screen, he is climbing a mountain named El Capitan in the state of California. And I watched the documentary that he made out of this called Solo. It's amazing. And here recently in SSD, Netflix did a documentary of him climbing Taipei 101 without a single safety equipment. And when he talks about what he does, it's very interesting because he says, I cannot make a single mistake. I cannot get dizzy. I cannot get cramps because I know if something goes wrong, I'm gonna die. He says openly. And I have another friend that is in Brazil. Pastor Magdiel worked with him, Herbert Boger. He is a pastor. He's the ADRA director in Brazil at the moment. And he's also a climber. And sometimes he will tell me the places he goes, and he climbs with professionals. Even though he's a pastor before, studying theology, he went in climbing, almost flat uphill rocks. And he says, Elbert, the secret is to have the right equipments, safety equipments, and to know how to use it so you can feel safe and protected to reach the peak, the summit, the destination. And I was thinking about that. All of us leaders of the church, called by the Lord and given through our appointment authority, responsibility in different levels, we also are on a climbing process. We also want to reach the summit, the peak. Last year I was flying from Asia to the Middle East and I passed over the Himalayas. What a view! And I was sometimes just imagining those who go there and climb. We are on a climbing destination. We want to reach the summit. We want to be approved by the Lord, but there are some safety equipments that will not only strengthen our leadership, but at the same time will help us to be legitimate leaders. But in talking about safety equipments, early morning today, I went into the internet. And I was amazed when I looked at some surveys. And the survey goes like that. People asking workers, let me just rephrase, people asking those who work in environments that require safety equipment. So the question is, do you believe safety equipment save lives? Everybody says, yes, I do. Do you believe that safety equipments are important for your company's values? Yes, we do. And many questions were asked until the last question. Everybody will say, yes, we agree. And then the last question was, do you use it? And many says, no, I don't. It takes time to put it on. Sometimes it limits my movements. So it's better not to use the safety equipments. for some workers. But look at the results. It's on the screen. I got it this morning. The global cost of workplace accident, it cost the world $3 trillion every single year because some people don't want to use safety equipments. About 4% of the global GDP goes out in the drain because of that. Almost 2.9 million workers die annually because of that. 374 million non-fatal workplace injuries each year. And every single day, about 6,300 people die from work-related causes. And the majority because they are not using the safety equipments. That's a real cost. And now let's transfer these into a church environment. We are here as a group of leaders. What about if we as leaders are not using the safety equipments that God has somehow challenged us to use? And I'm not going to talk today about the basic things. Studying the Bible, praying, witnessing, giving time and attention to our family. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going into a different route. But the biggest currency we have as leaders in our church, it's called trust. That people put in us. And that's somehow what I want to talk to you. Look at this. What's the difference between title and what's the difference between character? Title that was given to you open doors, grants responsibility, comes by your appointment, your election, can be given and can be taken away. And don't think that, a title is something that you can hold on. This is given by the church. It does not belong to you or to me to decide if you stay 5, 4, 3, 7, 10 years. When I studied theology, when I was in the seminary, I never, ever thought I would be in administration. I was just talking to Dr. Ginger now. I'm a very shy person by nature, timid somehow. To be here, for me, it's a constant exercise. Honestly, we are all different. And, I never imagined that I would be, in levels of administration. I study to be a church pastor. That's what I signed for. So what I am doing today is the church saying, Elbert, somehow, along your 32 years of ministry, we have seen in your years in mission, the way you dealt with the volunteers and missionaries, that somehow your gifts and talents can be used in this time frame, and we are inviting you then to join us. But the same church that gives me this right can take it away from me, and I need to move forward with the same joy, the same trust as before. Because I did not sign to work for General Conference. I signed to be a church pastor and to be ordained. So were you. I used to call the positions we have as work accidents. I don't know if it makes sense in English. It's an work accident. That's what title gives. What about character? Character earns genuine trust, gives real influence, and it's built through daily choices and cannot be done through appointments. It's not because you have a title that people will respect you. Ever. It is something that you earn Because you deserve, through your example, through your actions, through your words. Leaders, we carry more than policies, agendas. We carry more than stories. We carry people's hopes. And sometimes we carry also people's pain. Legitimacy in leadership is the quiet credibility that allows the mission to advance. Listen, is a quiet credibility that allows the mission to advance, even when sometimes decisions are not so popular. Legitimacy in leadership is not something that is given as together with a title. It is something earned. And let me tell you another thing. Legitimacy is not earned primarily in conference rooms or in actions that we take, but in the daily ways we express our character, our persona, and the way we conduct our daily leadership. Leadership is not primarily, listen, it's not primarily about what we defend or fight for. It's about what we demonstrate in actions through our example. The church does not change because of what you and I fight for. The church changes because of what you and I model through. With that conviction as our foundation, I want to reflect with you in 5 pillars that establish and sustain leadership legitimacy. Not something that is abstract, but something that is, a lived reality. Not an ideal to aspire, but something that anchors our ministry so it can endure way longer after our title or position are relinquished and our terms in office ends. So let's go there. What is the pillars that we should somehow as leaders pay attention? We as leaders should always have, in order to be legit, a clear and a transparent communication. And there is, I would say, no other time in history where clear communication is needed. Information flows to our office, decisions pass through your desk. Let me tell you, our words carry a lot of weight. My wife, sometimes I even joke. People ask me sometimes, Elbert, what was your hardest place you have ever worked? I say it was to manage my wife. And I will explain that. I'm joking. You know why? It's because my wife will always tell me, and again, she always tells me what no one else does. And I sometimes, oh boy, I don't like that. But she does. And I remember, and let me be very transparent, again, even vulnerable. I remember some time that I was so disappointed that I treated her in ways that she was crying. But even crying, she looked at me and he said, I will do it because I want to see you succeeding in God's work. No one else will tell you what I am telling you. Leadership lives and dies by the quality of communication. This is true in every level, in every organization. But listen, in church structure, it's even more important because trust is our primary currency. And when communication is unclear, when communication is evasive, or sometimes communication is not so honest, that damages extend throughout our organizations. It fractures the spiritual credibility that makes institutional leadership meaningful at all. And that's why Jesus spoke these words that we find in the Sermon of the Mountain. Let your yes be what? Yes. And your no be no. Legitimacy begins with clarity. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. Ellen White says, everything that Christian leaders do should be as transparent as what? The sunlight. People trust leaders who speak plainly, honestly, and consistently. Not leaders who are sometimes dramatic, defensively, but leaders who are simply truthful. And many times, people lose trust in leaders who project confidence. Sometimes, they come and they project their on top of everything, but at the end, sometimes withholding crucial information. Leaders sometimes who use polished institutional languages to manage impressions rather than communicating real through reality. Transparent communication means saying what you mean and meaning what you say. It means resisting the temptation to issue statements. Listen to this. It means resisting the temptation to issue statements that are technically accurate, but deliberately incomplete. It means treating the people you lead as adults who can handle the truth. There is nothing better than speaking clearly the truth. There is in the words of the wisest man that ever lived on earth, the King Solomon. Look at this. When he says in Proverbs 20:14, sometimes we say, it's no good, says the buyer. Then he goes off and boasts about the purchase. Have you ever thought about? Mean what you say and say what you mean. Avoid vague language that creates confusion. Avoid polished phrases that hide sometimes uncomfortable truth behind, but we sometimes don't have the courage to say. Every email, every conversation, every agenda carries either light or shadow. Even when facts are correct, the tone in our voice can distort truth. The way we speak, people read. And let me tell you, friends, I work with young people. Let me say like half of my time is managing the volunteer program all over the world. And if there is a group of people that keep me straight in line, it's the young people. They can read us in a way that you have no idea. We don't fool them. They know. And let me tell you something. They don't care if I work for the General Conference. They don't care if you work for the Southern Asia Pacific Division. They care if you are a genuine and legit son and daughter of God, who are deeply and profoundly interested in their well-being and in their salvation. Don't come with your title and talk to young generation. Just bring your beautiful character of someone that lives and fears the Lord. Clear, transparent communication. Ellen White says, when talking about let your yes be yes and your no be no. These words condemn all those meaningless phrases and expletives that border on profanity. Look at that. They condemn, the words of Jesus condemn the deceptive compliments, the evasion of truth, the flattering phrases, the exaggeration, the misrepresentations in trade that are currently in society and in the business world. They teach that no one who tries to appear what he or she is not, or whose words do not convey the real sentiment of his heart, can be called truthful. Leadership and legitimacy have clear, deep communication. I was in my theology class, and this is a story. I taught Pastor Roger that Johnny Oliveira would be here today. This is a story related to Johnny. It's an interesting one. It was the year 1990. Johnny's father was a theology professor, and I was having a class with him, the theology of education. My younger brother studied with me in theology, and he was seated behind me because I was a big guy and he wanted to sleep most of the class. So he would sit behind me so he could sleep. In those days, there was no computer, no internet access. So in order for us to know what was happening around the world during break time, we would go to the library and get the magazine, the weekly magazine. This is a famous one in Brazil up to today. And that was the magazine. My brother, younger brother, was reading behind me. So, because I was big, and he said, Elbert, just put your shoulders wider as possible so the teacher will not see me. So, Pastor Jorge Mário Oliveira, Johnny's father, was giving the class. And my brother behind me was reading this magazine. But let me just put it this way. It's a funny story, but teaches something. To the teacher, he was pretending he was paying attention. So he will keep his notebook and the magazine. When teacher would look at him, he would hide the magazine. When the teacher will look at the other side, he'll pull it and start reading. And at a certain moment, I noticed the teacher start walking in our direction. And I say, oh boy, now we have a problem. And he started walking, talking and walking. And then he came to my brother, but I was very close to my younger brother. He just bent and he says, my son, you are just deceiving yourself. People are watching. And sometimes they don't say it, but they think they are just deceiving themselves. Communication is key for the legitimacy of us leaders. Point number 2. Acting with integrity. Integrity sometimes is often reduced in leadership to not lying or not stealing. And of course, these things are really, really important. But integrity is way beyond not lying or not stealing or not doing what is wrong. Integrity is the condition of being, listen, undivided. Is when what we believe, what we say, and what we do all point in the same direction. That is integrity. When we say, when what we believe and what we do point the same direction. It is the quality, integrity, of being the same leader in every room. Listen to this. In the boardroom, in the prayer room, and in the soccer field. I will tell you why. I work under a president. And before the movie Transformers came to life, I saw what a transformer looked like. A guy that would be amazing in all the places, but the soccer field. That was a place he was transformed. Integrity is being the same in the living room of your house with your wife, in the boardroom of the conference, union, or division with your co-workers, and with the same in the soccer room as well. When no one sees us, the same when the environment around reward right behavior, but also being the same when there is no reward for the right behavior. People do not follow perfection. Listen, I talk to you about the young people. Again, people do not follow perfection. Young people don't expect me to be perfect, but they expect coherence, balance. They follow leaders whose behavior can be predicted because it flows naturally from conviction, not calculation. Sometimes our behavior is a performance. Depending where we are and with whom we are talking, we behave in way A, but then later we are in a different environment, then we behave in a way B. Sometimes we are talking with someone and we say something, and I have seen that and you have seen that as well. And maybe some of us have even done it. Where we say, for example, we are together in an ADCOM, and you have a different perspective on a topic that is under discussion. You keep quiet, but you vote yes. Once the ADCOM is ended, you go out and you said, I don't support that. They got it wrong. But you voted yes. And you stay quiet while inside the room. And now outside, you say it's their decision. I have nothing to do with that. Clear communication and integrity. Look at what, again, the wisest man on earth says. The integrity of the upright guides them, but the unfaithful are destroyed by what? By what? It's not, no, I didn't support this, but you voted yes. Friends, integrity shows itself most clearly in the moments that cost something. It's relatively easy to be honest when honesty is rewarded. Got it? It's very easy to be honest when honesty is rewarded. The test of integrity is how a leader behaves when honesty is very, very expensive. When only a mistake would be embarrassing. When giving credit to someone will diminish your own visibility. When resisting a temptation to use institutional resources for personal advantage would require real sacrifice. That is integrity. That is what God is calling Southern Asia Pacific leaders this quinquennial to stand for. People who really, and let me be among friends here, do not care about the title we have. They are good, yes. They are important, absolutely. They open doors, they give authority. But what if the next 5 years we are leaders that are concerned about the character that God expects from each one of us from the Southern Asia Pacific division? And let me tell you, I'm part of this team. I was given the responsibility to liaise with the Southern Asia Pacific division. I keep talking with, the Secretariat group and sometimes Treasury, processing missionaries, volunteers, and many others. I'm part of this vision. A coherent leader owns its error openly, give credit freely, take responsibility personal, rather than distributing blame to circumstances or subordinates. One more word on what we might call strategic humility. Know your strengths and bring them fully to work, but acknowledge your limits as well. Dr. G.T. Ng, many of you know, loved, respected leader. He communicated with me in the year 2018. He said, Elbert, John Thomas, the former Adventist Volunteer Service Director, is retiring. We are looking for a replacement. Your name was suggested. Would you consider joining General Conference if the Executive Committee votes you? I thought about it. Before saying yes, I told him, I say, dear Dr. GT, you are calling me to be an associate secretary. The only experience I have as a secretary was 5 months at one of the unions in Brazil. 5 months. Are you sure about that? I'm not a secretary by trade. I'm a mission guy. I love mission. I like to be in the front line. I love to engage young people for mission. I love to brainstorm with them. I love to, bring thousands of young people to work so they can later be the future missionaries of the church. But let me tell you, Chief, if you're looking for a real secretary, I'm not your guy. And I'm not telling you this to promote myself. I'm just telling you, I have strengths, absolutely. But I'm not good in everything. And sometimes pastors, they think they are good in everything. They think, or we think, we are good in everything. I could keep talking. My brother-in-law is an engineer. And one day, they plan to build a big church in a very wealthy state in Brazil. The pastor did not understand a thing about construction. My brother-in-law was an engineer. Oh boy, how many hours I spent with my brother-in-law. Because he said, I don't understand why sometimes you pastors think that you understand about everything. Bring people. They will respect you more. Ask questions. Ask for help. Tell them, I don't know. I can tell you many experiences where I tried to perform, showing people I was on top of all the situation. But then I realized the best way was to say, I don't know, I need help. Would you help me? Then 100 people jump in and say, finally, we can help the pastor. Let's move on. We need to finish. Just the world changes through our example. Look at this. You think your opinion is important? Probably your opinion is not going to make anyone follow you. Your example will. Point number 3, balance and consistency gives leaders legitimacy. It's very interesting. We deal with successes, we deal with failures, we deal with stresses, limitations, right decisions, we make mistakes, courage and fear. And let's be honest, institutional leadership is emotionally demanding in ways that most people around us do not fully understand. We absorb the expectations of the world church from above us and the frustration of workers below us. It's not easy to be a leader that is balanced and consistent. It's really demanding, and I do understand. Life, as Charles Swindoll says, is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. Again, Proverbs, when a fool is offended, listen to this, everyone soon knows it. But when the prudent or the wise person pretends the insult, but the wise person, the prudent, pretends the insult never happened. They have balance. They know how to handle it. They know sometimes just to swallow the pill and move on. It is easy? Absolutely not. But that brings legitimacy. Legitimate leaders learn to absorb adversity without spreading it. They don't leak frustration into meetings. They don't pass stress down the organization chain. They don't react impulsively. Instead, they pause, they pray, they respond thoughtfully. Emotional balance. This I found in the book Mind, Character, and Personality. Let me just read to you. Is someone a balanced person who adapts to the reality in which they live, take responsibility for their own behavior, meets their needs without harming themselves or those around them, regulates their feelings and emotions so as not to create conflict with others or become unhealthy, is able to face everyday challenges without taking advantage of anyone, moves freely in relationships because they carry no debts with others, is humble, realistic about both strengths and weaknesses, yet constantly growing, trust God above all things and cooperate with Him in everything. In summary, a balanced person is an autonomous, free, self-determined, self-disciplined, and responsible, God-fearing person. Coming to the end, a legitimate leader put church interest above self. Maybe this is the most demanding because it costs us personally a lot. And because the cost is often paid in precisely the moments when we find the hardest moment to fight. Let me just bring one slide. Putting the mission and the church above yourself. Just to let you know, we were requested to share our presentations. I'll share the presentation so you can have it if you wish to. A leader, a legit leader, make difficult decisions that sometimes is negative or may negative affect people we care about and are concerned for. Do you know leaders sometimes who will only work with those close to them? When they come into a position in leadership, they say, now I will bring all of my friends and family around me. It means no longer being appreciated sometimes or admired, even when our decisions and intentions are the very best. A person who puts the church above means being misunderstood and having no opportunity sometimes to defend yourself. You go home, you cry out, you open your heart to the Lord, and move on. The last one, remain humble. and grounded. Leadership always brings visibility. Visibility brings influence. And listen, influence brings temptation. So subtle that many leaders never recognize it until significant damage has been done. Leadership brings visibility. Visibility brings influence. Influence brings temptation. The temptation to begin believing our own importance, to slow shift our identity from servant to owner, from steward to celebrity, without even noticing that this is happening. I just finished saying this to you. A legit leader grows through transparency, deepens through integrity, survives through emotional balance, and mature through sacrificial service, remaining strong with humility. May the Lord bless us. May the Lord use us. And may the church recognize that we are legitimate leaders, not because the title we carry, but the character that we are developing by the grace of God. May the Lord bless us all.